What is up, Oasis? Hey,
Good morning,
back at
good
you
morning.
live.
Yeah.
Live. Yeah, we did pre-recorded last week, so we're in vivo.
We're all in now.
Yeah, we're all in. Hope everybody is doing well on this Monday. It's beautiful outside.
It is.
It is.
It's going to be a wonderful day and a horrible night.
That's a fact. Yeah, I saw that. I woke up this morning and saw the warning. There's a freeze warning. There's a wind warning. There's
Yep.
an apocalypse warning. There's everything. Yeah. So enjoy your day because I guess everything happens tonight. So.
Yeah. But the weekend is coming. Well, it's just
Yeah.
one day. So
Yeah, I think Sunday's supposed to be pretty nice. 80
Yeah.
something?
So, well, I think even Wednesday is supposed to be like 70. But
Really?
I find it interesting that we always start off Oasis in the Word about the weather.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's a good call.
But-
That's what we should do. That's it. We're the weathermen because we look at the app that everybody owns. So, yesterday was good. We also start with this. We do kind of a rundown of
Yeah.
yesterday. Man, there was a lot of people in.
It really was. You know,
Auditorium.
pastors joke about the worst day of church ever, which is the week after Easter.
Oh, yeah.
Where numbers like,
Yeah.
they plummet. But it was, and just seeing people be consistent and showing and putting effort into their faith, and it truly is encouraging.
Yeah, it was, and of course Sunday groups and everything like that. It was just a cool vibe. We have a new class that's meeting in the student building. You guys have always been out there in the student building.
Yeah, we're brave.
Yeah, you are brave. There's always a disclaimer for those of you guys who maybe are watching at home. You don't know this. Wherever you find yourself, there's always a disclaimer of any adult class that meets in the student building. Like you got to know. You got to know, man, what you're getting into is some. We do give them donuts, we do give them sugar, and we're fine with them having coffee and caffeine. We get them all hopped up and everything like that. And then we ask them to go sit in the big church and maintain. But any adult class that comes out there, it's like, man, you got to walk through them, and that's like walking the gauntlet. Don't make eye contact.
You say that, I texted the leader. I was like, hey, the double doors are open if you don't want to walk through the gauntlet.
Yeah,
that was the word I used.
Yes, so smart, man. And it was funny because I watched a couple folks walk through, and you could just see their eyes are darting, and like, yeah, you might want to check your watch.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, right. Check your pockets. So today, just a passage that I have is actually going to be coming out of the book of James, and it's 1:5. And the more I've I've been thinking about I'm getting tired of talking about this too, like this. As the world opens up, it's like what is that? It's like
a rerun?
Yeah, soap opera during the day. As the world reopens. It's the same storyline for the next 100 years. We do need to navigate, I think, society with wisdom. I think that when we go into day-to-day conversations, things are different now, man. They are. And it's not just about mass. There's a lot of social things that have gone with racial tensions, with, just overall things. Political climate.
Anything trying to change.
Yeah. Political climate is surprise. An election happened. Same. So it's almost like everybody knew that. There was no massive change. But there is a massive change because our mindsets are just shifting all the time.
Yeah.
And so the more I've been thinking about this is what is it to use wisdom? What is wisdom? How do we apply it? What does God give us? Pastor Bradley, a few weeks ago, I was with him just kind of on a trip, and he was talking about wisdom being discernment, and so that's kind of been bouncing around in my head as well. It's just identifying situations for what they are.
Yeah.
Just a moment of transparency and not necessarily confession. But I have issues with just personally I'm not the wisest. I'm not with my time, or I'm not the wisest with my reactions. I'm highly reactionary, reactive. It's not even personal. It's just all of a sudden I have a dog in the fight. It's not my fight, but I think that as we start reintegrating back into church, and we've been back at it for quite a while. But as numbers are coming up, and we're starting to go into summer months, and what is that going to look like? What's school going to look like next year? There's dates all over the place of, are there going to be masks? Are there not going to be masks? What's that conversation going to look like? I'm hearing reports from the youth and everybody else of, ironically, there's like the mask bullies aren't necessarily the ones griping about, like, you don't have to wear a mask. It's actually coming the other way. And so it's amazing. Wisdom, discernment, settle down. So out of James, chapter 1, verse 5, and I'm going to read 5, and then later at the end we're gonna read 6. You can also flip over to Proverbs chapter 2 as well, because we're going to be jumping over there. It says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach. It will be given to him." I looked up what wisdom was and just internet definition, and it's the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. So that's the official definition. And it was really, as I was thinking about it, it's the experience, it's the knowledge, just the good judgment of, man, that is the definition of settle down and pay attention. Man, compare what you're experiencing now with past experience. Well, that's the knowledge that goes along with that. It's how to apply. And Proverbs chapter 2, I got a lot to read, so I'm just going to give you guys a heads up on it. Proverbs chapter 2, 1 through 10, it says, "My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments with you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding, yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, I will seek you. If you seek it like silver and search for it as a hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up like sound wisdom for the upright. He is the shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching out over the way of his saints. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path. For wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be present to your soul." It's pretty solid words.
Yeah.
And in this, I think that we need to start, and I need to start. I should start that statement always like that. To seek the Lord and seek the Lord's favor, and even in those really quick moments where I want to be reactive in a given situation, whatever it is, whether I'm trying to figure out whether to go into a store or how to react to a social situation, I have time to ask God for wisdom. And not only do I have time, I should make time if I don't, because how I'm about to go into this situation needs to be with God's heart. It needs to be, whether I'm going into the store and I'm trying to figure out, am I going to go to war over this or not? Truly, what would Jesus do? How should I act here?
Yeah.
God, give me the wisdom, given the situation. God, I'm going to need your words, because right now I'm kind of irritated with X, Y, or Z. When we come into church and we begin to deal with just different social contexts, even in church, of we haven't seen each other in a long time. Praise God, man, coming back into from Easter, man, we're seeing a lot of new faces come in here, which means there are going to be folks that are going to be sitting in our spots, man. I'm having random people sit in the youth section, and I found myself bristling like, why are you here? But the truth is, wisdom is they're here. I need to stop with the why part. They're here. Praise God, they're here. If you're going to sit in the youth section, just understand you're going to get some knowledge that you didn't know you needed. But I'm glad you're here, and starting these conversations and dealing with everybody in the hall of, God, would you give me wisdom to pay attention to what's going on? how to deal with social situations, how to deal with political situations that maybe I don't agree with. But I don't need a political situation glorified. I need God glorified. So it comes into the next part, verse 6, James 1:6, and it says, "But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind." And that word doubt is, don't go into this situation. If you're going to ask for wisdom, if we're going to seek wisdom, don't go in there with this idea of being disputable and disputing God. We need to be in a position where we're open to the wisdom of God. If we're going to ask for wisdom, we need to be ready to receive the wisdom. I had a lady a long, long time ago that was telling me that she changed how she prays. And I'm like, well, whatever. And she said, no, it was actually a big deal, because a lot of times when I pray, I have what should be the right answer from God, but God's answer to me may be different than what I want it to be. So I've started to pray, this, God, is what I'm looking for. This is the condition of my heart. But God, give me wisdom and strength to deal with your answer to my problem. And I thought, that'll preach. You know, I need that in my life. Yeah. And I was mad at her for a little while because I didn't want to hear that. But man, isn't that it? I was not ready to receive the wisdom sometimes that God gives us. Yeah. He gives me. So my encouragement in that is, and kind of just ending my part, is we need to seek God's wisdom, but we need to seek it with the heart that is open and available. So that's a prayer that we start every day with. God, I'm going to need you to help me today deal with what you're going to do. And God, I need wisdom, because I don't want to deal with my son. I don't want to deal with my neighbor. I don't want to deal with X and whatever. Give me wisdom, and also wisdom to deal with what you're going to do, because I may not like it.
That's very true. And I just want to kind of building into that, looking at just two situations that are very similar, almost identical, and it's at the calling of Matthew. Matthew is a tax collector, and tax collector, we've talked about them before. They've always been hated because they were supporting the oppression of the Romans over the Jewish people, and inside, not just supporting them, but they were also like oppressing their own people by taking more money than what was needed to give to the Romans. So it's almost like this compounding of like, man, I really hate you because you're not for us. You're not fully for us.
Right.
You're for the other side, and you're oppressing me to do your job. But Jesus comes, he calls Matthew, and he says, come and follow me. And then a little bit later on, or in the process of this, Matthew invites Jesus over to a dinner. And that dinner being very much of, man, we still to this day see dinners as a little bit of acceptance of those who we're eating dinner with. Mm-hmm. Even if it's for you to find out information about, I don't know, some multi-level marketing or something like that. You know, there's obviously some type of acceptance that you are okay with,
sure,
and being associated with, as your server comes like, oh, this man's just getting strung along, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so there's this acceptance, and so the Pharisees come in verse 11. It says, and when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? But when he heard this, those who are well have no need for a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. And that's kind of interesting right there. Jesus says, go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I came not to the righteous, but to the sinners. That I desire, he's quoting the Old Testament right there, and he says, man, obviously you don't know what this means, so I need you to go figure that out. And so inside this reality of how the Pharisees, one, they see Jesus, let's be honest, another religious leader, them being a religious leader, they don't just go to their equal counterpart, they go to the people. Right. They go to the one who doesn't fully understand and know what Jesus really is all about, what he's trying to do. And so that's one instance of when it comes to seeking wisdom, man, one, know the right place to go. Know who you need to talk to. Know who you're talking to when it comes to finding wisdom. The next passage is really the same situation, but it's a little bit different. And it says, and the disciples of John came to him saying, why do the Pharisees fast or excuse me, why do we and the Pharisees fast, and your disciples do not fast? And Jesus said to them, can the wedding guest mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? And he's going to this expression of, man, this is the precursor to the ceremony. Like, the anticipation of a ceremony has excitement. Even though the ceremony hasn't started yet, knowing that it's going to, man, that's exciting. And you're looking at brides and grooms and everything that goes into all the details. I know, being a part of weddings, I know it's not always fun when it comes to the details, especially depending on the mother or the mother-in-law. I'm just going to put that out there. It's not always fun, but there's the pressures, there's the decisions, but there's this joy. But getting back to the disciples of John, man, they didn't go ask the disciples. They said, okay, those people follow this teacher. I'm going to go ask this teacher, not in a deceiving or conniving way, but like being ready to receive what knowledge they're about to receive of why do they not fast? In other words, like, man, they went in asking Jesus, like, are we missing something of knowing of why we don't need to fast? Because inside their message was still repent, the kingdom is coming. And Jesus' message was, and the kingdom is at hand.
Right.
You know, it's at hand, it's in front of you. But getting kind of looping back into the Pharisees, of it being in front of us is how we depict everyone else, like our view of perspective of everyone else and our interaction with them. Because one thing that I want to point out is the Pharisees' interaction of, like, man, a sin was being associated with the sinner in their perspective, and that's not fully right at all. And Jesus, his message was to the sinners. He said, I come to call the sick, not the well, not the righteous, but really to encourage the righteous. And so I read this earlier about what sin is, and it says, the New Testament also has a view that sin is a lack of fellowship with God. And an ideal life is one fellowship with God. Anything that disturbs or distorts this fellowship is sin. James, and where you were, man, there's a passage that says, man, he who knows what to do and is good and doesn't do it, to him it is sin. You know, so man, like, that's a verse we all need to look and know of, not just we're avoiding something, but it's also us doing something. And so to tie this other end onto the full perspective of sin, it says that the outward deed is actually a fruit of sin. And that statement just fully expresses when... That's
a good call.
Yeah, when Jesus comes in and says, those who have committed adultery, you've committed it in your heart as you look at a woman in lust. And that Jesus was really, he was dealing with lust, but he was also dealing, man, it's a heart thing.
Yeah. That decision was already made.
Yeah, you know, and it's the birthplace of our thoughts is the overflow of the heart. And that passage is all throughout the scriptures. We see Jeremiah, like, man, when he says, man, don't trust the heart is deceitful. Who can know it? And clearly there's several passages where Jesus says Jesus knew what was in all of man. Yeah. He knows what's in our hearts. And he is the only way to cleanse it. He's the only way to even mend it back to its rightful glory. I heard this statement of Jesus and Adam, that Jesus was fully God, but yet fully man, and him walking on earth was how God expected man to be from the beginning, of following God with a willing heart.
Right.
And really nothing more than that. Man, if you have a willing heart following God, like, man, everything else is just going to fall in its place. And there's not going to be as much hardship, although there might be some hard things. But when we're holding on to, man, the kingdom, and the kingdom being at hand, and that is a joyous moment.
Right. So. Man, I appreciate that. And I think that even now, as I was sitting here listening to you, and even thinking about just my own situation and those that are around, as we talk about wisdom and gaining wisdom and that knowledge and application and everything. And there's a lot of times that I don't use the wisdom that I have or the knowledge that I have correctly, and it is the sin in my heart. It is, whether it's judgmental or lazy. I just don't want to. I don't want to mess with you. Whatever. I mean, that's not glorifying to God, and I'm out of fellowship with God at that point. I mean, that's a factual statement. I'm just out of fellowship. What would Jesus have me do? He would have me engage in this situation and represent him. I don't want to.
And that's that.
Okay, and that's that. I'm out of fellowship. So, man, that's strong. I appreciate it. Guys, as we kind of go through this week, as always, man, stay in the Word. Get in there. I'm reading James. Pick one of the Gospels, whatever the case is, and get to reading and
Yeah.
read with the intent of learning. Man, this old school notion of just onboarding information and not applying it in everything, that's weak and needs to be done.
Yeah.
Man, we need to be reading the Word with the intent of a changed life. Our
Yeah.
lives changed, and applying that wisdom, because we're gonna get it, man, if we start asking. So, love you guys. It's good to see everyone in the comments, and it's good to see some familiar faces and everybody just touching base and everything like that. So, love you guys, and we'll see you Wednesday, Sunday morning,
Yeah.
next Monday for sure.
We'll see you.